Welcome back to the LUU Leadership Race Question Time. Up next, we have the candidates for the Education Officer role. So firstly, can I invite up Miles Davis for his speech, please?
Thank you. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Miles Davis. I've had a fantastic time at university by being involved in changes to the education system, and I want to keep making a positive difference on a wider scale. This year, I'm school rep for non-European languages, representing almost 1,000 students to the university, and also working with Ben Jackson, the current education officer, to make the changes that you want to see. My 3 Fs that I stand for are feedback, fairness, and facilities and support. One of the cornerstones of this is getting assessment feedback within 3 weeks. This is currently per university policy, but is hardly ever adhered to by all departments. So what I've done is I've changed the learning and teaching strategy in my school, the School of Modern Languages and Cultures, to reflect that change and deliver faster feedback. And I will push for that change across the whole university. If you vote for me, I will fight on your behalf for the changes that you want to see, just as I have done this year. So please vote for me, and I promise I will go the extra miles for you. Thank you very much.
Up next, Ree Colvin, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ree, and I think there's 3 things I can do for you if you vote me in for Education Officer at LUU. Firstly, I want to improve facilities and services, so that's libraries and computers. Secondly, I want to make education something that's more fun and interesting and relevant to you. And finally, I want to do something about graduate unemployment, because at the moment it's at its highest since 1993. I have many ideas about how to do this. I want to put students on interview panels for new lecturers so they can make sure teaching is good. I want to have students involved in decision making about library fines so you can choose how much we're fined and also where those fines go. I want to give students more influence over the creation of course and module content. And I want to set up a fund in the union that supports students in creating businesses and projects when they graduate. I want to give you more control over your education, your university and your future. So please, vote Ree for Education Officer, because I think you're more than just a student number. Thank you.
Up next, Dave Sheckliff, please.
Hi guys, Leeds Uni is such a great university and a union, and I just want to make it so much better. If you want better libraries, better learning and better courses, I will deliver this. If you want more value for money from your degree, I am your man. If you want someone who will deliver on their promises, support me. My name is Dave Sheckliff, and some of you may have seen my YouTube video, Postman Dave. If you haven't, it'd be worth a watch because it makes you smile. What I do is represent all students. I've listened to all your concerns and will act on them. Students wanted more electricity sockets in the libraries, and I will try and do this. Health science students are worried about their library opening times, and I will try and change this. Students also are concerned about hidden costs within their degree, and I will provide simple and practical solutions that we can try and stem this problem. I will deliver on these promises because Dave will deliver.
Thanks very much. And finally, Josh Smith, please.
Hi guys, obviously I'm Josh Smith and I'm obviously going for education. My policies are simple and to the point. I want to make sure that we get better, faster, more consistent feedback, better value for money, and that we continue to improve IT and library facilities. So let's make sure that we guarantee that every department has to give us on-time, good quality feedback. Let's make sure that the departmental software comes out wider than one cluster, that everyone can work where and when they need to. Let's make sure that every student has the right to a fair and the best education they can possibly get. For the last year, I've been school rep. I've been working alongside Ben Jackson, who's a current education officer, working with him and alongside him at meetings. I've represented up to 1,000 students at meetings such as Senate with the Vice-Chancellor, and I've made changes for my school already. I've had whiteboards installed for students, I've increased feedback time, and I've also made sure that an exam date was moved if it was inconvenient. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to taking your questions. Thanks very much.
First question has come through on Twitter, and I'm going to start with Ree. What do you think about a bursary scheme for prospective students funded through library fines? If you can just use the microphone. I just would.
So one of my policies is about having student involvement in the cost of library fines and also where those library fines go. So if after discussion and within the university through the democratic processes, this was a decision that students wanted to make, then that is something that I would most definitely support.
Thank you. Next, Dave.
Yeah, I completely agree that library fines has to be transparent, so we know exactly where our money is going. On the actual library fines, I would try and use the money to try and stem the hidden costs agenda, because I know, like, English students, you have to pay bucket loads of money for your books, and geography students have to pay a load of money to go on field trips. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm going to eradicate hidden costs, because that is just completely unlikely and not realistic. But I would try and stem this, and one way we could think about doing this would be use the library fines and pour that money into it. Thanks.
Josh?
If the Leeds student article is to believed, we don't know where that money's going, and so I completely agree that transparency is very important. With regards to where it goes, I can only agree with Ree that it's important to make sure that it goes where everyone wants it to go, but I completely think that bursaries are a very important part of what's currently occurring at the university, and disadvantaged students should have access to extra money.
Miles?
I also agree that transparency is very important when it comes to library fines. We need to know where that money's going and make sure that it's actually going back into the library system and getting better resources for us. In terms of what we could do to get past it, we could have more online resources so there's not as much fighting for these books that cause these library fines, and that would be a good way to get around this problem. And that's it. But transparency is good.
Next question, I'm going to come to Dave first on. Do you believe the library should be open 24 hours a day, like in other universities?
Well, I don't know if everyone knows, but Ben Jackson's been... there was an idea put forward about the 24-hour libraries. It went to a referendum. The students supported it, and they're trialling it out to see if it goes. So if it goes well and it all goes to plan, if that's what people want, that's what people will get.
Agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if that's what's been passed through referendum and decided democratically, then that's most certainly what I'll work to make happen.
Josh?
I mean, in an ideal world, absolutely. And obviously, students would like opening hours to be longer. I think that would be a great thing. Obviously, there are money implications, but we can certainly take small steps towards that. I mean, for example, the Brotherton closes very early because of the Parkinson Court issue. There must be a back door somewhere that we can open up to get that library open for longer. A lot of people... Sorry. A lot of... Yeah, very good. A lot of people are actually unaware that there is currently a scheme where we can get into Leeds Met Libraries 24 hours with a Leeds University student card, and all you need to do is inquire at the library about that. And so, there are other options if it is financially completely unviable. But as I say, in an ideal world, absolutely, and we should keep working towards those longer opening hours.
Miles?
I think that Leeds is one of the top universities in the country, and we deserve to have 24-hour libraries for definite. We should start with Edward Boyle, because it doesn't have the issue of keeping Parkinson Building open, and work towards opening Brotherton 24 hours after that as well.
Josh, I'm going to come to you first on this question. It's come through on Twitter. How will you ensure timely and helpful feedback on assessments? How will you ensure, timely and helpful feedback?
I'm currently school rep, as I said, and like Miles, I've worked with my school this year to make sure that we can get feedback a little bit quicker. It's really important that we establish a charter in every school. Some departments already have it, but some don't. That means they have to give a minimum amount of feedback within a certain amount of time. My school personally is quite good at it up until third year, but I'm working with them currently. And as I say, that charter to make sure that's agreed between students and the staff through the partnership agreement is, I think, in my opinion, the way forward.
Ree?
So one of my policies is about making quicker feedback mechanisms in departments. And one of my ideas about how to do this is to give students the ability to start petitions about certain issues. So, for example, I know that feedback has been a massive issue. So if feedback is not good enough in your department, you as an individual student, without having to go through the course and school reps, which are important but sometimes involve very long processes, could start a petition to get feedback in your departments. And if you got over 70% of students on your course or your module to sign that petition, it would go straight to the department, and they would have to deal with it a lot faster because you can show that there's a lot of students that care about this issue.
Miles?
As I said in my speech, feedback is one of my 3 Fs that I'm basing my manifesto on. And I've already changed the learning and teaching strategy in my school to reflect a 3-week turnaround for feedback following exams. I've also, in my department, changed the written assessment form that we get back to better reflect the needs of people when they want to find out about their essays, what they've done wrong. And in terms of more verbal feedback, I think we could use the partnership scheme to tell staff that we expect to have within a week or so of the written feedback a chance to discuss in a mini informal interview style what we actually went wrong in the essay.
Dave?
Obviously, it's a big worry, this feedback. In my department, we're actually quite good. They normally do give you good, helpful feedback. Some of the times, it's like the simple solutions make the big difference. So my department changed the feedback sheet, and this made a huge difference from just basically a big block of text into sections, so you can really work out where you can improve and where you need to, what your strengths are. I'd work strongly with the school and course reps because obviously they're an important function, but also as an individual, obviously the fees are going to be £9,000 soon. So you need to get as much out of your degree as you can, and this is obviously one of my policies to try and deliver value for money, and obviously feedback plays a huge part of that.
Staying on the theme of feedback, if a student hands in an essay late, they are penalised. If a lecturer returns feedback after the 3-week deadline, there are no repercussions. Should lecturers have to hit deadline targets, especially those that affect students, and if they do not, should they be proportionately disciplined? I'm going to start with Miles on this.
As I've said twice already, I really agree with the 3-week turnaround that is university policy. In terms of disciplining lecturers, I think they definitely have to have some kind of meeting if it happens once, just to say students are demanding that you get it earlier than you're giving it back. And if they're consistently late, then they need some kind of head of department meeting to talk about different methods that they could use to return feedback faster.
Josh?
This is obviously quite a wide issue. It's something that happens in my school. I represent quite a lot, and fairly recently, on one module, I saw a lecturer about it, the module leader, who talked to the lecturer, and we did get it back straight away. They weren't disciplined as such, but I mean, words were had. I mean, discipline's quite an open word, and obviously there need to be repercussions for the lecturer if they're consistently late, because it is our education that we're paying a lot of money for. I've actually got a meeting set up in the very near future to discuss the potential turning over of the 5% discipline for someone who handed in the work a few minutes late, because it was returned late as well, so there is progress being made.
Dave?
Obviously, I don't know if everyone knows, but the union and the university are now in a partnership. Obviously, I'd carry on with this link and hopefully improve it as well. With regards to the penalty, I can understand your concerns, but I'm a bit baffled how you're going to police that from a realistic point of view. But it's all about communication. If the lecturer cannot give the feedback within, obviously I don't recommend this, and you should get your swift feedback, but if they can't, they should at least send an email or tell you to say they can't do it because they're ill or whatever. So just better communication between the lecturers and the students would help.
Ray?
Yeah, I also would like to continue to work on the partnership that Ben Jackson has started with the university, and I think that is a lot to do with improving communication between staff, lecturers and students. But I think if staff or lecturers consistently aren't giving feedback in time, then there should be ramifications in the department. And I think that also the petitions that I mentioned earlier would be a way of students, if students felt this was what they wanted to happen, then they would be able to kind of democratically petition and make this change. So I don't necessarily think there should be a policy across all departments, but that students in the department should decide if lecturers have ramifications for handing back feedback late themselves.
Next question. How do you think you can best represent the opinions and views of students on education? And I'm going to start with Ree, please.
I mean, again, this is what a lot of my policies are about. They're about giving students more control over their education and their university. So I want students to be involved a lot more in the process of creating course and module content with their lecturers. I also want students to be given the ability to diversify the way they're taught and assessed. So, for example, in my department, it's all through exams and essays. And often that can be quite a boring process that isn't that engaging for you, and you're spending a lot of time writing something that only one person is going to read and mark. So I want to look at how you can bring in new ways of learning and being assessed, for example, journals or creating workshops or events, or, you know, something that really you're inspired about doing and you put energy into it because you really want to. I think also obviously the petitions are another way that students will be able to make this happen quickly.
Dave? Can we have the mic put up?
Hello. There we are. Right. I think I'm quite old-fashioned. The best way to know about students is to ask them. If you talk to people, you'll know exactly what they want. And I've done this already via, I don't know if you know that, I put forward a motion or an idea so that students, we're going to press the university to graduate in a mortarboard. That was just simply off the back of talking to people. Again, work with school reps, and obviously they know the feeling of their individual department. So if the school reps want or the students want different types of assessment, then obviously we try and work with that. So the art of communication is often forgotten, but it is vital. And as you can see, I can probably talk for England, so everyone can talk.
Miles, if I could come to you next.
We have a very good system at the moment of school and course reps to get that flow of information from students up to the Senate and other bodies at the top of the university. I think we can continue to use these and strengthen them to really get the feedback that the university needs to make those changes. Also, this year I've pushed for more student involvement to the changes in modules, the following module reviews, so students are actually involved in the changes. Teachers look at the forms, come back and say, how about if I changed it like this for next year? And they say, yes, that's brilliant, we'll do that. That's the kind of change that we need to see. That's how we can represent students.
Josh?
I'm inclined to agree that the current system we have is actually very good, and we should continue to use that and keep improving it. I mean, there's a lot of school reps, a lot of course reps, and it's really important that we use them the best that we possibly can. Facebook and Twitter has been used more than ever this year by the Exec, and it seems to be going really, really well for the feedback that's been getting. But I think it's really important to have more open students, and more open meetings with students, particularly with staff. For example, there are some departments currently who are actually opening up all their staff meetings to a student representative, so there's always a student there who knows what's going on. I think it'd be really good to roll that out across the university.
Questions just come in through Twitter. What are candidates' views on supporting staff protests, and do they think it's fair that students should have to miss lectures because of this? I'd like to start with Josh, please. What are candidates' views on supporting staff protests?
I think protest is, again, quite a loose word. I mean, you can protest in many ways. If we're talking specifically about strikes, I mean, strikes are not called loosely. When a union decides to strike, it's because of major issues. And I think that we can't really doubt that lecturers have a right to a good pension and the right to work under decent hours and for decent pay. The disruption to lectures is obviously not something that is acceptable to us as students because we're paying a lot of money for them to be here and for them to teach us. I think we should encourage, if they do choose to strike or protest on a large scale, to rearrange seminars, to rearrange tutorials, but I think that we should be, to a certain degree, behind the staff when they're facing these big issues.
Miles, to you next, please.
I agree that we need to support staff if they feel that they need to protest about issues that are important to them. We do the same when there's issues about cuts or the raise of fees. We've protested, and it's a two-way thing. Same as the partnership scheme. We need to understand their needs, and they need to understand ours.
Ree?
Yeah, I think it's very important that we support the staff and lecturers who strike. They're fighting to save our education. They're doing this for us, and I think they really need our support. And of course, lecturers and seminars should be rearranged, but I think it's incredibly important that, you know, they supported us while we were fighting against fees, and I think we need to return that. So,
Dave, can you come in?
Obviously, staff or the process is quite a hot topic. At the moment, the exec have put forward a question to you guys, which you can vote on, whether you would support the union for the union to support the lecturers to strike at the moment, and I would do that. Give the people a voice. Let the students represent themselves by voting, and if the students want to support that necessary strike, fair enough. If they don't, fair enough. But give the students a voice.
Thank you. This question, I'm going to come to Miles first. Should the university have a quota to fill of students from disadvantaged backgrounds?
This is a very difficult question to answer because it deals with a lot of equality and diversity issues. But I think the main thing to avoid is tokenization of any minority group that could come to university. While it's very important to be diverse and to involve widening participation activities, I think if it was like we need 2% of people to be from South America, etc., that kind of background, then that's not how the university should work. Like, we should encourage people of different backgrounds to come to university, but not necessarily have a quota to fill.
Thank you. Dave?
I probably reiterate similar comments. Work with the university again to make their bursaries more available, and even simplest things, advertise the bursaries, because many people are actually they can get their bursaries, they're entitled to it, but they actually don't know about it. So obviously bursaries would help students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Again, this is probably a simple point, but education is obviously key to closing the gap, and yeah, this is one way of doing it.
Ree?
I think I'm going to disagree with you both on this, actually. I think that whilst encouraging and advertising to students may do something, I think in the current kind of context with tuition fees tripling, we do need quotas to make sure that students from disadvantaged backgrounds can come into education. I mean, it's going to fall massively, and you know, even in red brick universities you see at the moment the amount of students coming from coming from disadvantaged backgrounds is not high enough. So I think quotas could be one way of trying to encourage this, because it's a very serious issue with the rise in tuition fees.
Obviously, in principle, I'm absolutely 100% for making sure that we have as diverse a community in Leeds as possible. We already have a fantastic diverse community, and that needs to continue. As to whether quotas is the best way to do it, I don't think a quota per se. As Miles said, I don't think to have 1% from a certain area, 5% gay people. I think that's necessary. The university has in place a huge WP, widening participation scheme, that is basically dedicated to making sure that we can fill a lot of our university spaces with people from disadvantaged backgrounds from different areas, and that scheme is proving to be very, very effective without the need for certain numbers to be fulfilled.
Thank you. Next question, we're going to come to Ree first on. How are you going to help final year students find a job and make their degree really count once they've graduated?
So this is actually one of the core focuses of my campaign. It's all about giving you more control over your future when you graduate. I have lots of ideas about how to do this. One of the figures that you see around graduate unemployment is you have 45 students applying for every graduate job at the moment. That means one person is getting it and 44 students aren't. Now, I want to say, what if you start bringing those 45 students together in the university and support them in creating a project or a business idea? And then you have a fund in the union that will give them the financial startup they need in order to make that reality. I think graduate unemployment is a very serious issue that needs to be dealt with in new and creative ways, not just more careers fairs. That is important, but I think we need to start thinking about what have we got here in the university. There's a lot of ideas and energy here. How do we make use of that? How do we bring people together and start helping them create that future that they want to see?
Dave?
Give people the best education that Leeds can offer. So one of it is to just make your degree worth the money that we pay for. So key examples. I know it's very, very silly, but I'll just point onto I'll come back to the wider question in a minute. But simple things of when you go to the library, your laptop's out of battery and you can't find a plug. You know, these are like little issues, but will affect your degree as such. But going back on the finding a job business, career fairs are obviously important, but the uni needs to go a bit wider than the career fairs that we have at the moment, because obviously they're focused solely on grad schemes. Grad schemes are obviously great, but some students do not want grad schemes. They want to go into publishing or stuff like that. So again, the old chestnut, listen to the students, make their degree from Leeds the best that you can give them, and then the job should come soon. It's a horrible thing, you know. All my mates at the moment, they're finished uni at the moment and they're looking for jobs, but make Leeds University course give you the employability skills as you can.
Josh?
Yeah, obviously it's a massive issue. We're paying a lot of money for this degree. Let's make sure that it pays itself back. Obviously, if elected, we're going to be on the Leeds Exec, not on the National Students Exec, and therefore it's important that we make sure the education at Leeds is so good that a Leeds degree stands out on a CV. There's a lot of things in place already that we need to promote more and get more active. The Leeds for Life scheme, some of you will no doubt have heard of, the usage has actually gone down since last year, and that's something which needs to be remedied. Let's encourage people to go to the careers service and use it. Let's encourage them to get their CVs looking even better. I think an education officer should be working very closely with an activities officer to make sure that everyone's CVs have more than just what they've done for their degree. They should have their activities involvement, their society involvement, and make sure that the CV really, really stands out.
Miles?
This year there's been the idea put forward that there should be employability threads for electives so people can take one of these employability modules every year throughout their time at university, which I fully support, and I would push that as education officer next year if I were elected. Also, one of the points on my facilities and support heading in my manifesto is that lecturers should link studies to employability and transferable skills throughout all their lectures in all modules. And I think that's the way forward to push for better employability at the end of your degree.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to throw open to any questions on the floor. Can I get a microphone to this gentleman, please?
Okay, my question is going to be on tuition fees and your working relationship with our Vice-Chancellor, Michael Arthur. So we know he's head of the Russell Group, so he holds a pretty powerful position within the university system in the UK. I want to know what you're going to do with him, which is going to be able to get across to the whole university network. So we're accessible to one of the most powerful people in the university system. I want to know how you're going to work with him to make the system better, and what's your working relationship with him going to be like?
Right, does Ree want to come in that first?
Yeah, I think our Vice-Chancellor needs to be challenged on his position on tuition fees. He's been quite a supporter of the £9,000 tuition fees, and I think we need to continue to work against them. So, for example, the Exec proposing a motion to referendum to support the NUS walkout is a good example of that. But obviously, that is the situation, and I'm obviously going to do as much as I can to make sure that there is value for money in education still, and that students have more control over their education so they can make it something that's more interesting and relevant to them, and they can have more support after university in the options available to them when they graduate.
Miles?
I think this is a very key issue because obviously we want a good relationship with the Vice-Chancellor throughout our time at university, because in the end he makes the decisions at the very top. But obviously in my opinion, we do need to challenge him on the issue of fees because, I disagree with it, but obviously he's such a huge advocate of it nationwide. We need to work with him and constantly lobby him and the university to make sure that students here in Leeds and across the country want to make this change, and in the future, maybe he'll come around.
Josh?
Let's not pretend for a second that the Vice-Chancellor is going to be someone who's easy to change his mind on this sort of thing on. It's a massive issue, but he's under a lot of pressure from a lot of people. But that doesn't mean that we can't lobby him, it doesn't mean that we can't talk to him and set up constructive meetings and constructive protests to make sure that he's fully aware that we don't agree that we should be paying £9,000 a year for university. I mean, let's sit down with him and have open meetings where people can sit down and say, look, let's be fair, we understand that you're under pressure, but there's just no way that we can accept that that is a good opinion for you to have as someone who should be advocating education and students.
Dave?
Right. I come from slightly a different approach. I'm not going to kid you. 9k fees is just ridiculous, and I don't support it. But we are where we are. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to change the world. And at the end of the day, we have to work with the Chancellor. Basically, the 9k fee rise is, sadly, it's an issue that's already been decided. The government's not going to change their mind on it. The Vice-Chancellor's not going to change their mind on it. So you have to work within what you've got. And one of those ways you can work with the Chancellor, with the Vice-Chancellor, is to get as much value out of your degree as possible. I'm a realist. I hate this position that we're in, but at the end of the day, we're in this position, and you have to work with what you've got. So it's all about improving. Yeah.
More questions on the floor? Can we go to this gentleman at the front, please?
Are fees right. Are fees the best way of paying for university, or is a graduate tax fairer?
We'll go to Josh first on this, please.
Obviously, it's a big issue. It depends completely where you're coming from. It depends what degree you're doing. It depends what university you're at as to what's going to be the best outcome for you. I think a graduate tax is a plausible way of paying back your education fees, but there's huge amounts of debate as to the fairness of either scheme, and I think, honestly, I just think it's too tough to call because it's going to depend where you're from, what you're doing, and what job you're going to go into, as whether it's fair for you or not. And we've got to look at the wider student body here.
Miles?
Overall, you'd got to weigh up the pros and cons of both fees and graduate tax. And for me, I think fees as they are still the way forward, because graduate tax, there's too many variables involved to make it fair for everyone. So I think we should stick with fees as they are at the moment.
Dave?
Hello. You obviously don't want to listen to me. I'm kidding. Right, fees or graduation tax. I'll probably reiterate what the guys have already said. It depends purely on what course you're doing, what uni you're at. Again, there's probably too many variables, but we represent Leeds students, and it's sad to say it, but if you want to vote for someone who's going to change the country's policy and the government's policy, you're probably going down the wrong line. I'm a realist. You have to work with what you've got, and fees at the moment, although it's not popular, might just probably edge for all students. Obviously, it depends on your degree and your background, but your course. But probably fees would just touch it.
Ray?
I find this a bit of a hard question because it's like two bad options for me. Like, I come from a background where I don't think we should have to pay for university education at all. I think it should be free, like in many other places across Europe. But when it's down to these two options, I think fees are still a fairer way of doing it. I think a graduate tax would be too much of a big change, and I think we should focus on lowering tuition fees rather than a whole new scheme.
Thank you. Any more questions on the floor? Can we get a microphone to the gentleman with the grey hat in the middle, please?
Obviously, the personal tutor is the person that gives us all our references when we leave university. Do you think that the relationship between the tutor and the student needs to be improved, and how would you do that?
I'm going to start with Ree, please.
Yeah, I think it's most definitely something that needs to be improved. I was actually having a conversation with my friends the other day about how we're in our final semester and we've just had my friends just had our tutor changed again and we don't have a personal relationship with them at all. I think this is a policy that should probably be passed through the Better University Forum or through, again, the idea of petitioning in departments, because I think a lot needs to be done on this. Students need to have a lot more support in their learning than they do from their tutors at the moment, and that's definitely something I want to work on.
Dave?
Yeah, basically, if you, instead of having a reference from your personal tutor, I would say have a reference from the academic that you're most close with. So if you have a particular, shall we say, favourite lecturer or favourite module leader, ask them for a reference rather than getting a reference from someone who's your personal tutor that you've probably met once in a blue moon. So if you want if you want a reference from someone that actually knows you, this is what I'll try and push forward.
Josh?
I have to disagree with Dave. I think a personal tutor is a vital part of your university time. When they are your personal tutor, they're there for issues beyond what's been in your lectures. They're there for you personally. There's been a lot of reports to me about a complete lack of tutorials beyond first year, and that's just not acceptable when the tutor is going to be the person writing your reference. If there's no personal relationship, you haven't got a personal reference, you've got a standard reference, and it's really important that every single person is different and has knowledge in it about what the person's done and what they're like. I would really, really work very hard to get more tutorials beyond first year all the way across campus, and work really, really hard to make sure that it's impressed on tutors that they must have a personal relationship that goes beyond a standard meeting with a large group of students every week.
Miles?
When it comes to the issue of students who have had several different personal tutors over their whole university career, when it gets changed for the first time, whether it's someone on sabbatical or someone who's ill, etc., then I think that they should have the choice to either return to their original personal tutor or stick with the current one, just to see who they have the best personal relationship with and set up that kind of system to sort that out. And also, I do agree with Dave that there should be a choice of lecturer. Like if you want someone who you're closer with than your personal tutor to give you a reference, then I think that's perfectly fine. You should be able to talk with your personal tutor and that lecturer, and if everyone agrees, then I think that's a good way forward to get a proper personal reference.
Thank you. Any more questions on the floor? Can we get a microphone to the front, please?
Hiya. I was just wondering, we've been talking quite a lot about undergraduate students today, and I was wondering how your policies relate to postgraduate students.
Can I have Mr. Josh first, please?
Yeah, I mean, my policies aren't specific to postgrads or undergrads. They're general policies for the university. I mean, for example, about getting better feedback, yeah, that obviously accounts postgrads as well. I've also got better value for everyone's money. I think postgrads are often overlooked, and I think it's really important that postgrads very much come into the decision-making process. There's a distinct lack of reps at school and course level for postgrads. I think we've only got about 4 postgrad school reps, and we need to have a lot more than that. We've got so many undergrad reps. I think it's really important that the union makes sure that it's really obvious to postgrads that they can get involved and they can have a voice as well and come to those meetings and put their point of view forwards.
Miles?
I've made the best efforts that I can to make sure that my manifesto applies to all students. And in particular, we've got facilities and support, so that's better library opening hours, better library facilities, computers, printing facilities across the whole campus, which apply to everyone. Feedback also for all students within 3 weeks. And fairness also for splitting assessment fairly between exams and essays for different people who work in different ways. That can also apply to postgrads and undergraduate. So I've tried to have a clean sweep across my whole manifesto.
Dave?
All my policies will work for undergraduate and postgraduate students, so whether that's better libraries, better learning and better courses, it's all relevant for all students, and postgrads will be part of this.
Ray?
So I think this is actually a really important issue. At the moment, the university is undergoing a big review of its code of practice, and one of the issues in this is the pay and the training and support that are given to postgraduates who are actually teachers to a lot of you. So I think this is something that people forget. Postgraduates, researchers are students, but they also teach. And at the moment, there's very unfair training for postgraduate teachers. There's also unfair pay in that they're not paid for the hours they have to put into preparing seminars and lectures, and also they're often not allocated to the subject that's right for them. So Ben Jackson is currently working on this, but there's only 3 postgraduate representatives involved in this process, and I think the student union is something that needs to really, really start supporting postgraduates in getting better working rights and pay rights, and also getting better training and support, which means that they'll be able to teach you better, and it will be a better experience for both undergraduates and postgraduates.
Coming close to the end of time, if we could just take one more question from the floor. Go to the gentleman at the back, please.
My question is just a simple question. It goes back to basically why you're running. So why do you want to be our education officer?
I would like to start this with Ree, please.
I would like to be education officer because I'm really, really passionate about education. I've been involved in different projects surrounding it from the beginning of university. I've been involved in the student-led discussion network, which is about peer-to-peer learning between students. I've been involved in the Really Open University, which was a group started to try and stop the cuts in education and the tuition fees, but also to look at how we can make education something that is more interesting and relevant and exciting to students. I've also been involved in the Space Project, which is a project set up outside of university to take learning into the city and to make it something, education and learning, not something that just happens in university, but is there throughout your whole life. And I think the reason that I should be elected as education officer is because I have a lot of new and interesting ideas. I think I'm proposing a lot of different ideas to other candidates, and there's some really big, interesting changes I can make. So thank you.
Dave?
Right. Basically, I use that word quite often, but here we go. I really, really want to get as much value out of your degree as you can. Again, the fees have already been raised and already been mentioned today, and I just want to make sure that you're getting the money that you're paying for. I believe I've got the right skills to do this. My policies are realistic, achievable, and what I say I'll hopefully deliver because Dave will deliver.
Miles.
Basically, the reason I'm running this year to be education officer is because since first year I've been course rep on my course, then I was year abroad team leader, and then I was course rep, then school rep. So throughout my whole academic career I've been involved in changes, positive changes to my course, and if you give me the opportunity to make those changes across the whole university, then I will do everything I can and I will go the extra miles for you.
Josh?
Essentially, I mean, like everyone else, I'm massively passionate about education at Leeds. Like Miles, I've been a school rep. I have made big changes. I had an exam moved, it was inconvenient for us. I've had whiteboards installed at quite a cost to the university. They're bringing in a coffee machine, which is actually really important to some students. I'm actually only a second year. This is not for me something to do instead of a job at the end of my education. This is a year out of my time because I want to make Leeds better for everyone else. This is not something to whack on the end of my CV. I've made changes. I have working relationships with a lot of the staff in the university already, including at very high level. I honestly think I'm the best choice for you, and that's why I want to be education officer.
Thank you very much to all our candidates. That concludes this section of the question time. Up next are the candidates for the activities position after a short 5-minute break. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome back to Question Time Analysis section. These were the education officers who look after your courses and library issues. And these are the people who represent you with the university decision-making body. So far, we've had 4 candidates for the education officer this year. And we've got Rhiannon Colvin, Miles Davis, who's been a school rep for non-European languages, David Shetcliffe alongside Josh Smith. They've had put forward excellent ideas for this year, and they've got such as enforcing audio recordings of lectures, more laptops to be available for hiring in the libraries. They want students to be introduced on the interview panels for new lecturers, and they want an extension on the opening hours of the library. Some interesting comments from Twitter. We've got from the LUU election saying that the education candidates are all expressing clear and concise views. They're the most impressive group of candidates so far. So if you've got any feedback and comments, follow us on hashtag LeadLUU on Twitter and post your comments and questions to these candidates. Up next, we've got the activities officer. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are here as a candidate in the activities officer election, could you please make your way over to that seating over there? If you are here to support a candidate, could you please come to this area here and park your bum? Thank you. Just to repeat, can all candidates please report to that area over there if you are running for activities? It's a big crowd so far for the activities officer position. Well done to the two. I think you've been here all day. Yeah. Worst date ever. I'm just going to put that out there, you know what I mean? Okay. Hello. We're going to start the question time for the activities officers in 5... Well done for bringing your mates, by the way. However, there's 10 of you. Bloody hell. Like, between the 10 of you, you could have brought one person and it would have looked all right, wouldn't it? Are they all playing sport? Okay, guys, if I could ask you to come here, please. Thank you very, very much. Right. We're going to put you in an order when you go over there, okay? And that's the order you're going to come out and do your 1-minute speech. Your 1-minute speech doesn't start until you start actually speaking, okay? That's when it starts. So you've got time to settle it up. There is a lady over there. She's going to raise her pen in the air like this. Mel, wave. That's when you have 10 seconds. When she does this, you've got no time. So shut up. 10 seconds at a time. Take your time, you have bags of it, then come over here. Let me tell you a couple of things about this microphone. If you stand here, no one can hear you. And I've got a huge voice, and they can't hear me, right? Here. If you do this, everybody can hear you. So come and give it a kiss, all right? It has to tickle you just under the nose. That's fine. Don't yell and tickle, or you sound like a mental, okay? Good. It's not my mic. It's fine. So, also, when you have your these rules also apply for those mics there. They've got to be here, right in front of your mouth. Also, when you're being very animated and being very passionate, make sure you do this. Otherwise, you look like a cock, right? You will get up if you keep doing that. So don't move your head. Absolutely. It is literally like that. The moment your mouth's away from it, you can't hear him. It's got to be there. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be starting the activities exec. No, that's wrong at all. The activities officer. Question time will be starting in the next couple of minutes. Please come take your seats. Thank you. I've said this before to the audience, and I'll say it again. Guys, feel free to clap along, to whoop, not to me. Twat. Feel free to clap along, whoop and holler and ha 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 ha. If you don't think I can be as loud as this, you're wrong. Feel free to whoop and holler as much as you want. Please clap along. Please, however, do not boo. It's just bad banter. Don't do it. You look like a, So don't do that, okay? So let's have an example. Let's have you all clapping, please. That was lovely, James. That was practically just you by yourself. Not even a student, but fuck it, he's going to go for it. Lovely. Okay, cool. I can't say fuck. No. Oh, fuck.
Stop it. Lstv would like to apologise for Dallas. Dowes,
Can we get some cups and water for the candidates, please? Thank you. Is someone going to be sat next to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2.